What do I mean by circling and not naming as a concept?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think a lot of people doing their self-work, let's just say, or just living their lives, often will have a thought pattern that they keep circling, not naming what the pattern is actually revealing. And so it just continues to circle. So for example, the passivity e- experience. So in my marriage, I was passive, and I called it empathy. I called it compassion, and I called it
Mhm.
patience. So I was circling passivity, labeling it something different. So I wasn't actually naming what was going on. And then once I was really honest with myself and realized that I can have empathy, I can have compassion, I can have all these things, but at the end of the day, what I'm doing is not making a really hard decision or not standing up for my own values, morals, whatever it is, in the name of something else. So I had to
Mhm.
name the passivity what it was so I could do something different with the data that was coming in. Because if I just kept
Mhm.
calling it empathy, then I would think that I was doing the right thing. I'm being patient, I'm being kind, I'm letting, this person move through life in the way that they do, and I love them and I chose to marry them, and therefore I'm just going to continue to hope and pray that things might change one day, and I am responsible to the choices that I made, and I chose to be in this marriage, so I need to rise up to whatever occasion it's giving me, regardless of whether it serves me or not. That was me. That was the passivity in my experience. And when I called it passive, and the reason I started calling it passive is because I genuinely saw other family members in my experience, and I could see them in it, but I couldn't see myself in it. And then when I made the correlation, it was so fucking obvious that I couldn't unsee it anymore. And then that's when the real responsibility came back on me, because the responsibility wasn't necessarily to my husband or to my kids anymore. It was to myself. And how do I actually want to show up to this life that I'm living? So not only am I being served, but I can genuinely serve my children, and I can genuinely serve a
Mhm.
partner that's in my life. And until I figured out that it was me just avoiding a really hard conversation and really a really hard a decision that I didn't want to make, honestly. I never wanted to make that decision ever. I just figured I could just keep figuring it out as I went along, and I'm strong enough, again going back to that idea of being strong. I'm strong enough to handle whatever comes my way. Anything that challenges me is a growth opportunity, and all of this like very fluffy spiritual mindset ideology was actually damaging me.
Yeah, I think that is
So I was
true.
circling
And
it
also, rather
but
than,
not naming it.
right, I mean, to me, that's not a circle. That's like a mislabel. You mislabeled it. You were calling it something that it wasn't. You
Sure.
saw
Yeah.
something and labeled it to, in, and that's where the passivity was from. It was the mislabeling that was creating the passivity, because that,
Hmm.
like, you then had this notion of what that was supposed to look like rather than seeing it for what it is. So when you saw
Hmm.
it for what it is, it then forced everything else to unfold for decisions to be made, because
Down a
now
whole
it
different
is
path.
different, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because now it's wearing a
Yeah.
different lens, and it's like, what's interesting about that too is that nothing changed fundamentally. Everything in your environment
Mm-mm.
was the same. It's just the lens that you put on it was different enough for then the environment to be able to change, because you then, I mean, you saw it differently.
Because I
We
was
talked about this
ready then
last
to
time.
change. Mhm.
Yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
always changing because always trying to solve the problem, right? Which inherently leads back to that idea of being strong and having that as a piece of your identity, right? I'm strong, I can handle this. There's nothing I can't handle. Like these are things I tell myself often, and especially now as a single mother, because now it's like I better fucking handle it. Who else is going to handle it for me? And so it definitely feeds this like identity monster. Um, yeah. How does one though recognize the idea, the thing, like, let's say I circled passivity. I didn't label it. I was labeling it something else, and passivity was the core of it. So I was circling the label. I just didn't see it for what it was. How does one see it for what it is if they're so wrapped up in everything else and trying to do the right thing, whatever that means? I saw it because I was I had to release some control. So I think one of the things we wanted to talk about now was, after the last 2 episodes that we've had, is control, and noticing the areas in our life where we are gripping so tightly to control, versus surrender, flow, agency.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the right word there, because I had to just drop so much control, and just like I got to the point where it felt almost like I didn't have another option but to just fucking surrender. I
Yes.
tried and tried and tried, and like forced. There was so much force, and there was so much I'll try and be anything to make sure that I've like almost covered all my bases, which in a way is also so selfish because I wasn't capable of just being myself anymore. I felt like I had to be somebody else to make it work, and that doesn't serve anybody. But, control is a tricky bitch.
Yeah, I think always, just like anything else we've ever talked about here, awareness is always first. So, like,
Mhm,
you had to be aware of not only the feelings, but also the consequences of the choices that you were making in the labeling or the mislabeling of these certain things. You called it empathy for years until you didn't, right? Why did you stop?
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I
Something
think
had
I
to have
just was
triggered, right? Like,
something happened. It was a conversation, it was a coach, it was somebody that gave me an alternate perspective that then just, hits you like lightning. Yeah.
mhm.
I don't recall what
Yeah,
it was, but
I
it
think,
definitely happened.
sure. Yeah. I mean, even to that degree, like you also, as receiving, now we're going to get there, as the person receiving, you have to
Yeah,
be willing to receive that, also the feedback, the
yeah.
information, the new perspective, right? Open. And that's, I think, where the control comes in as well. Like you have to really let go of that control of all of it, of being the strong one, being the label maker and the problem solver and all of these things, because then that closes you off from anything outside of you, right? If you're always in
Mhm.
control, if you're always the one, where is there room for anything or anyone else, any other conversations, any other perspectives, right? You
Mhm.
got it. You've got it. Who needs anything else? So it's like, I think part of the awareness is also losing the concept or the stronghold of control over everything.
When I'm teaching awareness to clients, because I do a lot of corporate work, and people are everywhere, obviously. It's all still just humans. So I'm not going to label that corporate humans are different than other humans. And also, it's a corporate environment. So sometimes it's just an interesting dynamic. But one of the very first things that I like to do is just a audit, like a self audit. And it's the easiest practice. And so I want to offer it here too, because it gets you thinking a little bit about the decisions that you make throughout the day and whether it's for like your most aligned self or your alternate. I just call it alternate. And actually I was going back in these documents recently, and a couple of years ago I called it your best self and your worst self. And it was just so blunt and so crude, because that's also the point where I'm relabeling it a little bit now, but is it your best self or is it not? That's basically the thing. Did this decision that I make align to the direction that I actually want to go, or didn't it? And then we tally at the end of writing out like an entire day really honestly and really quickly too, without putting too much thought into it, just to get an idea of how you spend your time. And it's just a very simple like little habit tracker, and then from there, now that the juices are flowing, there's the next exercise, like part B of this exorcise, and I call them exorcises because that's what it feels like. Uh, um, and here's 5 things that are working well and 5 things that are going to hell in both your work life and your home life, and it just
Mm-hmm.
reveals so much. So much, and it's such a
Yeah,
simple, easy thing, and I don't think enough people spend enough time just doing a simple self-audit
at all.
at all. So that's one way to start increasing or working on awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. Like look at the different parts of your life, and like I do something similar, but I more so do it like an energy leak. Like where is it leaking in
mhm,
these
mhm,
areas? Right? Where are you giving too much? Because sometimes,
mhm,
most times, too much is too much. Like you've gone too far. You're focusing so heavily on this thing, and again, back to control. Like there's a control element to putting so much thought and effort. Like, and I'm only using you for an example because it's right in front of us. Like so much effort into making sure that your marriage was working when you really could have just been honest with yourself about what it was and where it was, and that is all, right? And so
mhm, mhm.
noticing these parts too of where in your life are you giving so much.
Yeah, yeah, and that also ties back into the conversation of desire we were having, like, and then wrapped in with identity, because my identity I didn't want my identity to be someone who failed at marriage or someone who broke up a family or whatever label I decided it was at that time, you know? Instead of labeling it potentially someone who chose themselves first or chose their children, or there's multiple different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
But that's the identity, and is it from conditioning? For sure it is, right? Just knowing how just all of the things I've learned in my life, that was the lens that I had on it. Oh, people that
Mm-hmm.
get divorced are quitters. So
Mm-hmm.
having to unwind from that too and relearn or learn, not even relearn, but learn what it actually means. Because that's so polarizing. It's so polarizing. But again, on the topic of control, it's like if I can just stay in these parameters of what I think is a solid human being, then obviously my life is going to be successful and abundant and easeful, right? No, it's not how it works.
No,
Yeah.
not at
So
all.
when you're talking about
Yeah.
your own identity and the control over this whole thing that you're unwinding from right now, like what is coming up for you? Where are you still controlling, do you think?
How out of control everything feels, because I see the reality that it's not even present. Like I don't see any areas of my life. That's not true. Is that true? Yeah, I think everything just feels out of control, and so that creates greater suction, or like a
Mhm.
more
Like a
forceful
reaction
grasp.
to
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is a common reaction, I think, from like even just like a body perspective. You pull and I pull harder, right? Or like if someone pushes, I push further. Like there's just this always, and I think that's a control thing, right? Having to be like, I don't even necessarily want to say like an upper hand, but always having to be on top, so to thing. The one, the just capital T.
Okay. In the name of what?
What do you mean?
Like to what end?
I don't see an end. I think control is the end.
What's the control giving you though? Sense of safety, sense of security, sense of authority,
That's it.
ownership, sense of
That's
pride?
the word that keeps.
Which one, sorry?
No, control. Control gives me control. Control gives me
Just
control. Like
control, it's just control.
it's a loop. Mm-hmm. Like it's, you know what I
Interesting.
mean? Like the loop,
Yeah.
that's where the loop loops, right?
Interesting. I mean, it might be beneficial then to go deeper and find out what the control is actually providing you with to help break that cycle. Because if you don't know, then yeah, it's just going to be a feedback loop over and over again. Like when I think about control and I think about like how much I was trying and attempting and continue to attempt to control my life, it's those things. It's that I don't want to have to put effort into ambiguity. I want to know where things are. I want to know everything all the time. I want to know all the details about everything all the time. And just it's a specific action for me to go with the flow, especially in social situations. So I actively work on it too. And I often enjoy myself if I just hand over the reins to somebody else and just be like, tell me what to do. Let's just, that feels really good because I know I'm going to be physically safe too. But if it's anything to do with like my own, like personal relationship or my kids, or like, I want to know every detail because then I can control the outcomes of whatever is going to come my way in terms of situations and circumstances and consequences, and I'll be prepared for it. And then if I'm speaking, I'm like unraveling this as I'm speaking out loud, because if I'm not prepared for it, then there's the potential for me to fail, to look like an idiot, to like maybe confirm the lack that's in my being that I've heard from other people in my life. The old conditioning that exists. I don't want to prove other people right. I'd rather prove them wrong. The naysayers.
Always. And I can feel that being true, but I'm like, I can't tell. Not everything is negative, right? Some parts are good, some parts are bad, some parts of the bad thing still work for our advantage, right? And so I can't tell if that portion of it, the desire to prove everyone else wrong, is a driver that influences positively or doesn't. And I'm not necessarily sure that it has such a large effect either, because the Gemini in me, the extreme version of me, both one also is a human being and understands that, of course, I want to be loved and accepted and be part of a group and so on and so forth, right? That's a very human thing. I understand that. I conceptualize with it. I can identify with it. And the other same version of myself, the other coin, genuinely doesn't care. And so this is always where I'm sitting, finding myself in
it's
contrast
just like this bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, right. And so I think part of it for me, and I think this goes back to what we were saying before, is the lens that is put in front of my eyes. Because at any moment I can choose to see it positively, or I can choose to see it negatively. I can choose to see it as something that is a growth motivator, or something that is holding me back from being the fullest version of myself, because now I'm, rather than just existing as I am, now I'm trying to prove something to somebody else so that they can see me in the version of myself that I am, rather than just existing in it. Now I've tied my outcomes to their point of view, right, and their perception, rather than just it existing, or me being who I am and letting that answer itself.
Right. I don't even know who this other person is either. Like, I genuinely cannot say outside of one of my own personalities.
Wow.
Like, who am I trying to prove this to? Like, myself?
Right. Like, when I think about it, and sometimes I'll even think of individual people, because I also question, like, who's the proof for? And
who has so much power? Yeah. Who in my life has that much power besides myself? Like, I genuinely can't say. So it must be one of my,
but then right. But then also, everyone's a mirror to us anyway. So it's like, if it's a person, then there's something inside and reflecting in that person that is me. So it's always me. I'm very selfish. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have to recognize that there's, yes, people are mirrors of themselves, but they're also their own human beings and their own souls having an experience. And so if I'm feeling attached in some way to that person and their perspective, something to look at, right? And not necessarily something that I have to they don't need to be involved in. Like, that's for
Mm-hmm.
me to figure out and to understand for myself why it's coming up that I feel any sort of, and I think this now that now I'm also processing out loud. I think what's also coming into perspective is this idea of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there is, I think what I see for myself, even though I obviously know it's not true, like, if I am just who I am in the ways that I am without unabashedly, right? Without constraints or anything like that, will I still belong?
Right. Because what's the alternative to not belonging? What happens if
Death.
you don't? Because that's
Right.
the answer there is what can fuel this too, right? And this is why we go deeper, 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 annoyingly.
Yeah.
But if you don't belong, then what?
I mean, genuinely, like, I was being facetious when I said death, but like, that's what it feels like. Like, how does one actually genuinely, as a human being, survive without belonging? We all need something or someone else.
Right.
Like, relationships
Mm-hmm.
are everything, even though obviously the one with yourself, but we don't live in this world isolated. It just
Yeah.
is fundamental. That's why it's something that still exists within all of us as human beings. We've carried that throughout our entire human history because it is important. We might have lost sight of it, but it doesn't take it away from our nature.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you also, like, when you see, like, I'll see things online or people kind of like gloating almost about how they love being alone, they love their alone time, they don't need people, they da 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 da. Like, to me, that it feels like such a mask for this exact reason. I too enjoy my alone time, but it's alone time. I'm not always alone, right? Like, I'm surrounded by children a lot, not just my own, but others. My house is one of the houses on the block where the doors open and kids are just in, out, in, out, in, out. And it's, kids are one thing, but then I get to know the parents and da, da, da. And like, we have this community and it's beautiful. So yeah, my alone time is sacred to me, but I'm not always alone. And I fear for others that they're talking themselves into being okay with being alone because of their circumstances,
Fears, right?
fears,
Like, I too
or
am
just
one
their
that,
realities, like,
yeah, but is it? I
I don't
question
know.
reality all the time. What is what? I think even just the concept of reality, like, yes, there's a universal reality, and then there's yours, and I think those two things are very distinct. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do I, you know, it's so hard to say, right? We are a collective having an experience together, and also we're individuals having experiences together. So I can't decide whether someone craving and loving and boasting the idea of being alone is right or wrong for them. But because
No, we're
universally,
not
right,
going
as
to
a human being,
speculate.
I can understand that is, false concepts, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also that goes into just like, I think even just like the brain, the processing nature of each individual person. I like to be alone because I'm overwhelmed by people, and that doesn't I don't fare well spending too much time with people. And also, when I'm in the room with and I say the right kind, because I mean it for me, like, with the right kind of people, none of that exists.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's potentially also a matter of like the belonging being in I don't want to say the right place. That's not necessarily real, but like belonging to something that
Like an energetic match.
is for me, right, rather than
Mm-hmm.
a concept that has been told to us, like conceptually, obviously, but how does that then work for me as an individual person when I think about or when I play into belonging? It doesn't necessarily have to look the same, but I'm trying to match my idea of belonging to what I have been told that it means, is being liked by everybody. It's coming into a room and not expressing myself to the fullest degree and all of these things and so on and so forth. I think underneath that also is safety. Like, is it safe to then walk into a room where you don't belong and still be an expression of your best self, or whatever the fuck you want to call your, I like to do fullest, because like good or bad, I don't really have that, but are you there all the way there? Are you diminishing parts of yourself?
Yeah. On one of my accountability calls this morning, the topic of being yourself in your business came up. Talking about Bad Bunny, actually, of all things.
Okay.
And just how I don't know, I don't follow Bad Bunny closely. I know you enjoyed the Super Bowl thing. We talked about that briefly. But apparently he just is himself. He has this certain persona that he exudes, and he is for the people, of the people, has his mission, and off he goes, and he doesn't does this sound accurate? Do you follow? Anyways, the point is that this is how, as an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you can most successfully build your business, even if it takes a lot of time, because it will. But the gift in that is waking up and being yourself. But then underneath that is knowing who you actually are. You know, like the parts of me that show up in my corporate world and my corporate identity are the same parts of me that show up with you. You know, like I go in and I talk about exorcisms in the corporate environment. That's what I'm going to do. That's kind of, it's just who I am. I'm not going to change that to appease a company. If they want to bring me, like, and I don't say that in what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck, my fucking brain. I don't say that to diminish or be disrespectful, but the point is that I'm building my business with a particular brand, and that brand is me. And if I don't have to deviate from me, then it's going to make all of, like, my entire business flow successfully, because it's built on me and how I show up. I don't have to change for the different circles that I'm entering.
Yeah. And now I'm even, of course I am, questioning all of this as well, because I'm remembering, and I really actually appreciated this perspective that you had brought up with someone you work with, a client, or I don't know who it was, but like, he loves to wear his masks and he's totally fine with that. And I love that idea, because I also recognize not everyone should or gets to have all access to all parts of myself. There are parts of myself I'm not even fully in relationship with. So why would I give anybody outside of me access to that? And so, like, this is, again, the dichotomy of my life, the desire to be fully expressive, and also recognize that the masks that I put on, although I don't necessarily consider them masks, I can, similarly to like the lens thing, put on a face of a version of me that is real, that exists, but it's a slice. It's not this everything all the time, all at once, all of the time. So something I also,
the invitation also has to be there, though, for you. Yeah, for you and for me. Like, I don't walk into a space and I'm like, here I am, here's that's not me at all. Like, you need an invitation, I need an invitation. If I'm invited in, though, and you want to ask about my life, now you'll get an honest representation, and you want to ask, like, that is a different I think energy, and where I really appreciate somebody that can wear a mask intentionally as well, knowing full well that it's going to serve them in that moment, and then they can unwind from it and take it off, and it's not necessarily part of their identity, but it's a skill that they have in a, let's say, professional context or social context, whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, me too. And what strikes differently, and I think you mentioned it yourself, is that it's purposeful and it serves for the benefit in some way. And so obviously the question always is this serving me? And especially towards the desired outcome. And obviously, maybe not obviously, like maybe let's not attach to the outcomes, but also we all have them, right? That we could pretend like we don't have expectations, but we all do. Like, let's stop lying about that. There's always going to be an expectation. And so with that presenting itself, does this serve that and what I want this to look like, even if potentially the outcome doesn't come to be? Like, I gave what I could and I put myself into a role that is going to serve that the road. Whether I make it to the destination or not doesn't really matter. Like, I'm in the car and the gas is full and all of the things, right? I've aligned myself properly enough to get there if all of the other, outside forces don't fuck me.
Kind of
And that's,
going back to that
to me, that's the difference. Like, I have
self-audit.
Right. Yeah. Like, I have a friend who we talk very frankly. And she also says the same thing. Like, I am this particular person at work. People call me a different name. They think of me as a different person. And the reality is that is not, it's not, it's both not real and it's obviously real.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. A different name even? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is just like, almost like you go either, it's like going to your house, right? And your parents call you a nickname, or like your friends call you a nickname, but everybody else does not get to call you that. It's kind of like that, right? So like there's these personas that exist that are you or they're not, right? You're going to act different. You're going to act in that role.
That could be an interesting exercise too. Like, what are all the roles? Yeah. What are all the roles that we play in life? That could be an interesting addition. I'm going to add it. I'm adding it to my self-audit. We'll leave a link too. We're going to leave a download link for people.
Yeah. That's like parts work, right? You're seeing the parts of yourself and seeing the persona that it is. So again, teetering between like good, bad, I don't know. Is it serving me? That's, I think, the bigger question.
A few moments later.
This conversation is going deeper than we anticipated. We need to split it into two. Check out next week to find out how this does or does not resolve.
How this saga continues.
The saga continues. If this conversation sparked anything, any form of curiosity in your brain, share it, subscribe.
Triggered you in either direction. If you felt compelled by it, either in agreement or you are fucking mad at whatever the fuck you said, subscribe. Love us. Hate us.
Love us.
Go in the comments. It doesn't matter. We would love it to be subscribed.